Hello everyone, Ruse here, and welcome to my Amber character guide. Amber ends up being the first fire and archer character you end up gaining in the game very early on. Introducing a new playstyle and some new gameplay mechanics, she ends up setting a pace for those who are getting into Genshin Impact. With her small introduction done, let's go ahead and get straight into what her kit does. The first part of Amber's kits are her auto attacks. Her auto attacks allow her to unleash a quick flurry of arrows whenever you're not charging your shots. The thing that makes archers a bit more advanced though is whenever you start holding down your attack button. Whenever you do, you can start charging up a shot to unleash an elemental arrow. This charge shot will always have the elemental effect added to it whenever it's fully charged and deal more damage. On top of that, aiming for weak spots with this allow you to do a great amount of damage, especially for those that enjoy these type of characters. Whenever you don't fully charge your arrows, you're able to just quickly fire off different spreads of arrows, doing more damage than if you were to do it without aiming. For Amber's skill, we have the Explosive Puppet. The Explosive Puppet does a little dance, gaining nearby enemies' attention to go ahead and draw a few attacks. Upon losing all of its health or its duration running out, the puppet will explode, dealing damage to nearby enemies. Of course, if you go ahead and get her second constellation, the puppet will then be able to be shot with a fully charged arrow to preemptively explode, dealing more damage. Overall, the skill is pretty niche. Sometimes the enemies won't attack it, and sometimes they will, but overall, it's a decent starting skill and can help you get out of some tough situations. For the last part of the Diluc waiting bench, we have Amber's Elemental Bursts. Amber lets down a flurry of arrows, dealing fire elemental damage in anything in its proximity. While most of the time enemies will just walk outside of this skill, it does do a decent amount of damage, just about as much as 2 charged arrows. But overall, it's not the worst skill and could definitely be way worse. Upon leveling it up more at her 6th constellation and realizing that you've pulled too many Ambers, it does end up giving your party a buff, making it a much more useful skill. Now moving on to gearing Amber, we have a few choices. Weapon wise, I'd recommend getting something like Sharpshooter's Oath or the Slingshot if you want to do some main damage with her running around as her mainly. If you want to go ahead and use her more of support, I'd recommend something like the Raven Bow or the War Bow you end up getting from the story. Both are really good choices, and it's just personal preference at that point. If you're going for more of a damage dealing build, I'd recommend building mainly pyro damage and attack percent on her, on your artifacts. Anything besides that really hampers her damage, as she really doesn't have that good of a physical damage scaling. When you're moving on to a more of a support build, getting the energy recharge percents are super useful, as with her having one of the lowest cost ultimates in the game, it'll get off super quickly, especially if you're using the War Bow. Getting into Amber's constellations, we can see that they're pretty mediocre for the most part, but could always be worse. Her first constellation goes ahead and gives her just a little bit more damage, giving her a second arrow on her charged shots, dealing only 20% of her first one. For her second constellation, it allows you to go ahead and explode the bunny prematurely when you shoot it in the foot, dealing more damage all around it. Again, not that bad, could be worse, could be better. Her third constellation just upgrades the power of her ultimate by 3 levels. It's just about the same as every other third constellation level. Her fourth constellation gives you an extra charge on her Baron Bunny, and of course some extra cooldown percentage so you can get it all faster. Her fifth constellation goes ahead and gives her the usefulness of an unupgraded Explosive Puppet. And for her last constellation, it's the most useful one, giving everyone a buff whenever she uses her ultimate. Overall, her constellations are pretty lackluster, and just think about how it could have been anyone else that you could have pulled, but you can't complain. You got some Stardust for it, and it's not official. But hey, that's about it for her constellations, and now we can move on to her talents. Skipping the rest of her talents because we know they're just her attacks with higher scaling, and we really don't want to look at that since she's mainly a bench warmer. We could go ahead and look at her passive talent, which is Gliding Champion. decreasing how much stamina you use by 20% whenever you're gliding, the most useful thing for the fire bench warmer. Of course, if you have Venti, this skill's useless and you're most likely not going to be using Amber anyways, but hey, you made it this far, so might as well keep on using her. Now that we're making it to the end of this guide, I'd just like to say, Amber's not that bad of a character as much as everyone memes on her. She does do some pretty decent damage and can help your team out, especially with Xiangling being a free fire character. You could get that elemental mastery for having 2 fire characters and getting the damage bonus. Mainly, I would just use her as support. She's okay as a damage dealer. As you can see, she doesn't really excel too much, but she does enough to help you get by. Don't really need a bunch of characters in this game anyways, so it's nice to have a free one that's capable of doing stuff. Overall, she's not the most useful, and I will agree with that, but she gets the job done. I would like to thank everyone for making it to the end of this guide though. If you like this type of content, like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to see more stuff like this in the future, let me know. I do stream on Twitch whenever I'm really not working on videos, so if you want to see that, go ahead and check me out there. Occasionally I stream on YouTube when I'm leveling my other account as well, to try and get some more free to play stuff out. Thank you again to everyone that's watched, and I'll see you all in the next video.